People have died after consuming toxic bootleg alcohol in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. The incident took place in Kalakuruchi district, where several residents fell ill after consuming the liquor on Tuesday night. At least 80 people are being treated in hospitals for illnesses such as excessive diarrhea, and officials say the death toll could rise further. 2 people have been arrested so far, and a wider investigation is underway. Authorities have also suspended a senior police official and 10 members of the State Prohibition Enforcement Wing, which oversees the smuggling of illicit alcohol in the state, for negligence. And Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, for a state visit. President Putin has met with his Vietnamese counterpart, to Lam, and other officials. The two sides will exchange views on the current status and future prospects of strategic partnership between Russia and Vietnam in areas such as the economy, trade, technology, and culture. They will also hold discussions on international and regional hotspots issues. We have a report.
Just a day after his visit to North Korea, the Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Vietnam for a tie-boosting visit. President Putin got a red carpet welcome in the Vietnamese capital of Hanoi by the Vietnamese President To Lam, who was full of praise for his Russian counterpart, congratulating him on his recent re-election. In return, Mr. Putin emphasized that strengthening strategic partnership with the Southeast Asian country was one of Russia's priorities. As Vietnam works to improve its relationship with Europe and the US, it still values the historic ties it has with Russia. Vietnam ties to Russia dates back many decades to the military, economic, and diplomatic support given by the Soviet Union to the new communist state in North Vietnam in the 1950s. After Vietnam invaded Cambodia in 1978 to throw out the murderous Khmer Rouge regime, it was isolated and sanctioned by China and the West and depended heavily on Soviet assistance. Vietnam has described its relationship with Russia as filled with loyalty and gratitude. Vietnam still uses mainly Russian-made military equipment and relies on partnerships with Russian oil companies for oil exploration in the South China Sea. The United States has criticized the visit, describing it as one which gives President Putin a platform to promote his war of aggression in Ukraine.
Global Affairs analyst Ejike Okpa joins me now from Dallas, Texas, for an analysis of the visit. Good to have you join us.
Thank you for having me.
So we've seen the red carpet welcome, as it were, a reception that has been given to Putin, not just in Vietnam, but also in North Korea. What does it say about the international efforts to isolate Putin?
Well, yeah, good question. Well, I think the West, America, for one, it doesn't want anybody to have anything to do with Putin. But unfortunately, America doesn't have all that final word. Presidents of countries are going to do what is right for them, and people who are seeking relationship are going to ignore what Washington, D.C. is saying. And they're going to do just like what Putin is doing with the 2 countries that are receiving him. It goes to say we have to recognize people's rights to exist and the relationship they want to form. And as long as that is not disrupting, the global thing. But again, what is not disrupting the global affair? If the West wants to be the only superpower, the rest of the country will probably say, no, we don't want that. We want to have the right to generate and develop relationships we want. And as long as that is suiting us, every country has the right to seek whomever they want to deal with. And so the West may have to tone it down and say, recognize this. Sometimes you just ignore it. But they're not able to, because they want to be the one whose flag is recognized. They want to be the one who want to be the one standing on the stage and lecturing and dictating to everybody else.
But and I will get to that, whether the West is ignoring it or not in just a moment, because America has reacted, or US has reacted to this particular visit. But how much political clout and influence, does Putin still hold, or is this just some posturing just to say, look, I'm still as important, as you think in the world?
Well, you use the keyword there, posturing, and sometimes you don't even have to have anything. You just have to show up at the village square, in this case, in the global square, and say, hey, I still have somebody who want to receive me. And that's going to irritate somebody. So, just like North Vietnam, North Korea, the guy is there doing what he's doing, and everybody else is always concerned about what he said or what he's going to do. And Vietnam is just doing the same thing. Remember, in the old country, I'm referring to my village, there's this thing they said, a chicken does not forget the farmer that gave it an umbrella during the rainy season. So Russia and Vietnam and North Korea, Russia has done something that those people, that still makes them want to receive Putin, regardless of what anybody else is saying, because they recognize at the time Russia was relevant. As long as somebody else doesn't like it, it's just like what we say, go to hell with that. We're going to do what we want.
Do you also think that somehow this isolation attempt by the West has somehow drawn some level of empathy towards Putin, and that Putin has also somehow been able to posture himself as a strong man who is able to stand up to the West?
Well, again, that's the level of the game, during the Cold War, and now post-Cold War, Russia, whether it was the USSR or Russia, Putin has learned somehow, whether he's 5 countries that love him or support him, he has learned how to, go through this whole maze of international diplomacy and still have relevance. And that is irritating America. That's irritating the West, that say, hey, we want to isolate this guy because of what he's doing. And they say, no, you can't. And so Putin would do these things to just say, poke his face, his finger in their face and say, hey, you can't stop me. And these people ain't going to listen to you. So that is even more irritating than anything else. Like, hey, don't do anything with this guy, but they still go do it. So America, again, I'm saying as an American, I think we need to sometimes ignore some of these things. Just keep an eye on it and recognize the sovereign right of every president in the world to go do what, cultivate any relationship they suit. If you don't like it, then don't deal with them. Just don't deal with them, but don't try to make everybody else go along with somebody you don't like because you don't like them. It doesn't work that way. Even in personal relationships, your enemy doesn't have to be my enemy. I just have to say, hey, during the 70s, we had in Nigeria, there was this non-aligned movement that India, Nigeria, and some other countries signed off for. They say, hey, we don't want to be with the West, or we don't want to be with the East. We just want to be able to have a relationship with whoever we want. And that didn't go very well, but nations still must the sort of idea that we have the right to form relationship whenever we want.
And in terms of ignoring it, the United States has criticized the visit for giving a platform for President Putin to promote his war of aggression in Ukraine. Vietnam is also looking to improve its relationship with Europe and the US. So how do you see this playing out?
Well, it's a bamboo kind of thing. You bend over to whatever, and then you still stand on your own. And so, Vietnam, obviously, they have the diplomatic skill or craft to be able to still deal with Russia and still deal with the West and deal with whomever. I think that's what effective leadership is. Stay in the middle, don't offend anybody, but always project and protect your own interest. You don't have to bow or cower to anybody, because that is what is causing all this shift and tension in the world. But somebody come to you because they don't like somebody else, listen to them and say, well, by the way, here's my own interest in that person you don't like. Don't dictate to me. I think what the West has done very wrong in this quest to be the only superpower is to dictate to other nations. And then, human beings forget the fact that you got to rise to be a political figure. Human beings want to respect. So when you come lecturing and dictating and commanding, they're going to push back. And they're going to push back in a way that will just make you look like, heck no, hey, I'm not going to do it your way. And so we need to shift to that international relationship model that the West is crafted over the years or decades and promoted, and respect every nation's right, as long as they're not doing it to undermine you or fight you. Just respect their rights to build a relationship.
We'll continue to see how countries will be able to navigate this diplomatic challenge of trying to maintain relations with the East and the West. Thank you so much for your time, as always. Ejike Okpa, Global Affairs Analyst.
Thank you for having me.
I'll take a break now. When the world now returns, we'll have more stories. Stay with us.